The September 10th meeting of the Planning Commission of the Parish of Ascension will come to order. Let the minutes show that we are all the commissioners are present except Mr. Trafisi and Mr. Callender. Will the staff please introduce themselves?
Stacy Webb, Secretary for Planning and Development.
Lindsay Manda, Legal Counsel.
Ricky Compton, Planning and Development Director.
Ben Moran, Planner.
Lance Brock, Zoning Official.
Tim Ward, Engineering.
Mike Petty, Senior Project Manager.
Mr. Moore, we're here that you're departing us, and we want to tell you that we'll miss you very much. And I wish you luck in all your future endeavors. Okay, we're going to, I missed a thing on the agenda, so will everybody rise so that we can say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, my only comments now are that under Section 11 on the agenda, items A and B have been pulled from the agenda, the drainage regulations. Items C and D remain. Okay. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the previous meeting? Hearing none.
We approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second that we approve the minutes of the previous meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are approved. Have we heard, staff, from any of the institutions that are involved with any of the items on the consent agenda?
Only on item A I heard from them, and they told me that they were approving it, so that one's fine. The other two, I haven't heard anything.
All right, in that case, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Yeah, I'll move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we have item number 9A, public hearing to approve or deny the following family partition. District surveyors.
I'm a property owner.
Okay. All right, so can we have a staff report, and then the property owner will speak or not, depending on whether you want.
Okay. I guess they're not here. This is just a family partition to cut out that 1.65 acre tract that he will be giving to his son, and everything's been addressed on it, and we recommend approval.
Are there any cards of anyone who would like to make a comment on this item? All right, is there any further discussion about this item?
No?
I move that we approve it.
All right, I have a motion.
Did we open the public hearing
Well,
and close it?
I did open a public hearing. I'm closing the public hearing, and I have a motion from Mr. Sanji.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, item 10A, Renaissance Third Filing. Tatum Engineering Consultants, staff comment?
Everything has been satisfied on this subdivision. They just, as soon as they post the bond, the engineering department would be good with them signing.
Would you like to say anything?
I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, I'd like to open a public hearing on this item. Are there anyone turn in a card to say anything? Okay, well, I'm closing the public hearing. Any discussion here among us?
Move for approval?
I have a
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved. All right. Like I said before, items 11A and 11B have been pulled. We have item 11C, ordinance SR 14-07, revisions to the subdivision regulation in the Unified Land Development Code pertaining to family partitions. Okay, so, staff comment first.
Well, I believe that we had continued this public hearing from last month, and so this is a continuation of that public hearing. We made the one revision that Mr. Chafisi had suggested, which was in section 1A, A1A, which added the language "which created a hardship." So if someone does a simple division, which creates a hardship, then that property is no longer eligible for the family partition.
All right, at this point, I'll open the public hearing on this ordinance. Do we have any people signed up to make comments?
Do I need to sign something, Stacy? So it's just,
You
it's
state
just
who you
public?
are.
Okay. James Fagwood, Earls and Associates. So we're not voting on this yet, or we're just, it's just up for public discussion?
We could approve this ordinance like it is, but whatever we do, it's just a suggestion to the
council.
parish council.
Okay, yeah. And I agree with a good bit of this stuff. I mean, I think definitely this is the right steps forward. Some of the issues I'd like to say is, I think Mr. Chavisi said the same thing, is a simple division. Once you do a simple division, it's no longer eligible for a family partition. I think I don't think that's a good suggestion. I think we need to broaden that, like he said, if it creates, like that last month, I think it was the Stafford one, where he created the hardship by subdividing all the lots. I think we need to have some kind of wordage that if you create a hardship on your property, as far as subdividing your property via the simple division route, then you're no longer eligible. I'll be all right with that one. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And as long as was it 3B? No property owner shall be allowed to donate property to the same family member more than once through the family partition process. I think we should look at from the parent track of 2015. If I own property in Santamar, I can't donate another one to my son or something in Prairieville. I think from the parent track is where it needs to originate. One child per track, per lot from the original track. I think that's a good way to go with that.
But James, you're still kind of wanting to, and I kind of, talked about this earlier. I mean, still kind of wanting to discuss this because, I mean, you're not really
Yeah.
offering up an official, any way to write it up in the ordinance.
Well, if we're designating the original track as of January 1st, 2015, that is the original track. So I could only donate one child to this original track as of 2015 on this apparent track. Now, if I get divorced or something, me and my wife have to sell the property, my dad can give me another piece of property in Prairieville or something like that to build me another house. What this says is it restricts them one child per lot in
No matter how many
Ascension
parent
Parish.
tracks.
Yeah.
And I think we were still kind of discussing that
Yeah.
amongst ourselves.
Yeah, I think we need
and
some
have it
other kind of
resolved.
language. I think one child per track, per parent track, the parent track would solve that issue. And that's basically what I see is, I don't like having to turn in a tax bill, utility bill and stuff like that. I think that's pushing. I think just giving a deed of the property would be sufficient enough, saying you own the property. When you start asking for utility bills, tax bills, and all this stuff, you start encumbering the landowner. Usually a deed's easy to pull up,
Yeah.
determine ownership.
I think the rationale for that, though, was you have to establish that you actually live on the property, that you're not just buying it to develop, and you're using the family partition to get around the development code.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of big landowners still in Ascension Parish that own a lot of land that don't live on the tracks. I mean, you're saying that just because if they don't live on the track, they
Right.
can't do a family
Yeah.
partition?
Well, I think the family partition, though, was the idea of, like, the old Ponderosa in Bonanza. The family lived there, and they divided up among the three sons, and they each get part of it. Not that I've got some land here and land here and land here all over the place, and I'm going to divide each of those up. It's not a family homestead there,
Well,
it's
it's
a
family
bunch of
land.
development. Yeah, it's family land, but it's not a homestead. I interpret a family partition as something where you have a traditional, this is where my family has lived, and now I want to divide it among my children. I mean, that's just me speaking, but that's how
yeah,
I
and
interpret a
foresee
family
it as
partition.
more than just that. I foresee it as a gift of gift, a financial gift to your family member or your kids or something like that. Not necessarily,
Yeah.
they got to build a house, but, you know,
Yeah.
land is a form of income.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just to,
Well,
they
in
wanna
that
build a
case,
house on it,
they
they can make
they could
income.
still divide it with the current, I mean, they wouldn't need the variance of a family partition. They could divide it without the family partition.
depends on the
It would cost more,
circumstances of the land.
but it would cost what another type development would cost. I mean, that's the point of this. Because if I've got a piece of property over here, and I want to develop it,
Can I
and I
keep
don't want to
talking?
pay the cost for the development,
talking?
what I will do is say, well, I'm going to call it a family partition so I can get around those costs. It's not because I want my family to live there, it's because I want to divide it and get around the
But
cost.
see, that's when we get into these 8 lots. I mean, do you really want, for 8 lots or 3 lots, do you really want a landowner who has 10 acres to have to do a drainage impact study, do have the traffic study? Then you're talking about the value of the land. If nobody has, if somebody has a 10-acre tract and they can no longer subdivide or do anything with, how many of these 70, 80-year-old landowners in Ascension Parish, their property value just dropped because they'll never be able to subdivide their property again?
And there maybe another variance for this, but when we're talking about
And
a
you're talking
family
about variances
partition,
and variances and variances and
a-
variances.
a
There's
family
I-
partition is
the
where
big-
his
the
family
biggest
was
thing
living.
As a land surveyor, the biggest thing I get right now is people don't want to live in a subdivision. They're too crowded.
Yeah.
Because the way, the regulations that a developer has to impose now, the price of a lot in a subdivision is what, 80, 90 to $100,000? And then you got to put a house on that. Nobody can afford that. They're looking for 1-acre lots in the country. That's what the demand is of Ascension Parish right now. We get that all the time. That meets the demand. And there's not enough of those lots right now that the average people can afford.
But wouldn't simple division be able to fix that?
Well,
Not
not everybody
necessarily.
wants to live on
And not
Highway
everybody has-
74, you know. People still like the gravel road going back into their mobile home in the rear of the property, out of the traffic.
It has to front on
If
public
there
road.
wasn't a demand for this, then it wouldn't be an issue. There's a demand in Ascension Parish for this type of property. There's a demand, we got to meet the demand somehow.
Well, if there's such a strong demand, but yet they don't want to pay the price for it, it's not really a
Well,
demand.
well, there it is.
Well, what about like tonight's property that got subdivided? It was 1.65 acres. There would have been no other avenue of simple division for them to be able to divide that property other than the family partition hardship because it didn't front on public
Right.
roadway. So, I
But the
mean,
family
it's-
partition, as it's written and as we're going to
Allowed
write
that.
it, allowed it.
I mean, looking at 1 to 3 lots, not necessarily going for all the big pie of 8 lots, like a minor subdivision, but I mean.
And that's
just-
what we're capping it, is the 7, 8 lots, and that's
Yeah.
it, from the parent tract.
And, you know, we have a lot of details to work out
Yeah,
here, but
and
we
that's
want
what
to
we need
stop.
And that first
Yeah.
meeting I had, I think
Yeah.
we had was a good start, you know.
Yes.
Let's-
Yes.
I think we can definitely get this done by January 1st. That
We
would
just
need
want
a
people
couple more
to,
meetings.
we want to stop people from going around the development code, using this as a way to get around
And I agree
doing
with
the
you.
right
I
thing.
agree
And
with
we
that,
had a
yeah.
way to do this, was a couple years ago, is simple division with a variance. And they stopped
That's
allowing
not-
that. That's when people had to put a
Yeah.
nice road in and gravel, swell ditches on both sides, and all of a sudden, that stopped. And then that's when this became an issue.
Yeah.
So if we can come in another avenue to subdivide property without having to do the family partition,
Yeah.
higher standards,
Yeah.
this wouldn't be an issue.
And there is no other avenue. The family partition hardship is the only avenue to get that done
As
right
of
now.
right now. That's why we need another. And
But
we
it begs
worked
the
on that a
question,
while
should we?
back.
And I
about
think,
trying to get
just
something
a-
done.
Should we what?
Should we have a different vehicle?
And I
An
think we-
additional vehicle?
And that's what,
I think there's just a lot of unresolved stuff that needs to still be talked about.
I have a question. James, your issue is on, the main issue, it seems like, is on number 3, or B3. So what you would advocate is, if you had a property owner who had 4 bigger lots throughout the parish, he could family partition those out, each lot divided amongst his kids,
but one lot per kid, and that's it,
on that parent tract.
on the parent tract.
So if I have a parent
I have
tract in
5 tracts
Prairieville
throughout
and
Ascension
one in
Parish.
Sanama, I can give one of my kids a family partition lot in Sanama and then one in Prairieville.
Yeah. But the
And
thing
and I
is,
think what,
if
it
you
kind
have
of goes to the bequeath of your property down the line. that's your legacy that you're giving off to your kids. I don't
Right.
know that it necessarily subverts the subdivision rules and the other division rules that we have. Am I right? Am I hearing you
And
right?
basically, by doing the one child per parent tract, you know, that 40-acre tract, he gets one lot out of. You know, he'll
One
never get,
half-acre lot.
he'll never get anything more of it, so it will never be subdivided between him again, unless he gives one to
And
his
only,
kids
and
or
only
something
8
like that.
lots off of that 140-acre
Yeah.
tract.
Yeah, like right now, on some of these family partitions, the person doing the family partition can get 2 lots off the family partition. With this, you know, that eliminates it right there.
So you would just advocate taking out that you can have more than one
From the
person
parent
can have
tract.
more than one parent tract
Yeah.
that he can
But in
partition.
January 1st, 2015, that's when the parent tract is established.
Right.
So that's when the GIS, Ricky said snap
And-
picture, that's what it looks like.
And the way it's written now is that it's only going to happen on one parent tract.
You can only have
So
one.
if you have 2 parent tracts,
You're
out of
you
luck.
can't, you're out of luck on the second one.
Yeah.
But should
I
there
mean,
be
we
a
can put it
limit?
to where if you have one parent
I don't
tract
think
in this section, township, and range, that way you can't have,
Well-
somebody doesn't come next week and do 2 parent tracts right next to each other. You know, I'll be willing to, you know, say, within this section, township, and range.
Right, and
You
I
know,
think
that
it
would
should be
limit-
made apparent that, opposed to Donald, I think of it as a gift to a child rather than as a place for the child to live. He can live there or not live there, but it's a gift from the parent to the
Correct.
child, and I think that's the purpose. of
But
the
I think that's the
ordinance.
balance that you want to strike, is you want parents or people to be able to give their property, but not give it away where I have a 40-acre tract, I'm going to divide it into 80 half-acre lots and give it to my 2 kids and let them build houses out there.
Well, let me-
That's,
let me give you this.
that would clearly
Let me give you-
violate the
the
family.
one we're
Taking
getting
care
ready to
of that,
work
though.
on
Yeah.
right now is I got a 70-year-old gentleman who's refinancing his house at 70 years old. Okay? He's got 10 acres. The bank won't loan him money on the 10, because his house with the 10 acres is more than what he wants. So they're making him cut out 1 acre of the 10-acre tract, and he can't, because his own property's only 100 foot wide. If we meet the minimum requirements, it doesn't have enough room for a lot in the back. So how do you accommodate that? I know, but how does he subdivide his property? He can't. But what I'm saying, we're talking about another avenue to subdivide
Good
property.
conversation here, not there.
Yeah.
Right, so,
So what he's having to do is he's gonna have to do the family partition, to cut the lot up in the back and donate it to his son so he can get the mortgage on the front property, because the bank would not mortgage the whole property. They only want the house with 1 acre. And you'll see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
There's,
right,
Huh?
okay.
21. The bank won't do that.
All right.
The bank has to have it approved by the parish.
Excuse me,
Anytime you
so
subdivide property, it has to be approved by the parish.
this is a public hearing, and, you know, we let you speak longer because we were having the conversation with
No
you.
problem.
But I want to know if there are
Okay.
other speakers that would like to come and speak. Mr. Aguilar.
Yeah, thank you, Billy Aguilar, 15482 Airline Highway, Prairieville. You know, what he's saying is just another way around the subdivision development code. If you got a guy that's got 10-acre tract here, and a 10-acre tract here, and a 10-acre tract over there, and he wants to give an acre to each one of his kids, and he does it over and over again, the kid can't build 3 houses.
Right.
So the family
But he
petition is
can't.
for a family petition.
But
And right now, the problem with all this is right now, as a drainage ordinance stands, okay, and of course, we work on it, and y'all deferred 2 things that we working on. But right now, he can go take that 10 acres and divide it into 8 lots, not do a drainage study at all, and put over 3 foot of fill on it because it's over an acre lots, and he can do mitigated pull and fill and put 5 and 6 foot of fill on it if he needs to. And us as a new subdivision developer can't put over 3 foot of fill on it. And that's just not right. And it's just a way to get around all the drainage ordinances and everything else involved. And until we change all the drainage ordinances to allow new subdivisions to do the same thing, what we're doing is we're giving exemptions to people, and we're not giving it to everybody. And I'm against that. Everybody needs to go under the same rules, is the thing that I'm really for. But if you give more than 1 lot to 2 or 3 different kids, they're just gonna sell a lot. It's not a family petition. Thank you.
I just want to say, it just depends on whether we decide that a family partition is for the child to live on or not. If it could, or whether it's a gift to your child, because that's the only way that you can make a gift to your child.
And of course, it's not the only way you can make a gift. If you've got a piece of property, you can keep it intact and give each a child a share of that property and not divide it. If you want to give them, part of the property, you can do it that way. This, I still say this is simply to accommodate families who want to have a family compound and all the children living around where mom and daddy live, and I'm okay with that. But if you do it for another reason and the children get the lot and sell it to someone else, then it's not a family partition, it's something else. And what it is getting around the development ordinances, and I don't think we should allow it.
Any other speaker in the audience? Well, we'll just announce who you are when you come up.
All right, my name is Sue Heath, and I'm sorry I'm late. I thought this was coming after the rest of the meeting. But just a little bit I've heard, I agree with Mr. Sanjay. I think we're forgetting that this family petition, one, is a variance. It's a variance that was given for families who wanted little Joey and little Johnny to live next door to them. I agree with that. And there are other variances in place for other situations. But I think we need to look at this. I mean, the definition here talks about giving the property to your heirs. And I think the intent, as far as I know and everything I've heard, is for families to subdivide property so they all live together in the compounds that we know we have many of in this parish. And isn't it correct that Gonzales can't do that? Right? So they find a way to deal with these other problems. Correct? Correct. Okay, so I think we need to start out with, what are we doing here? And if we're rewriting the family petition, we need to look at it as a family petition, dividing property so kids can live there. If you do anything else, people are going to take advantage of it. And that's my feeling.
So, as a group here, we either have to decide to send this ordinance as it is on to the parish council, to amend it and send it on, or to table it for further discussion.
Are there any more public?
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Excuse me, ma'am, could you address the chairman?
And at the mic, so
Yes.
because it's on TV.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've been out of town, and I just saw the recommendations today. And I had sent just a few suggestions to Ricky. And mainly it was to address Matt Pryor's concern in the last meeting that we tie the two sections together. And so
I do want to address that real quickly. I think we received, it was after the last meeting, we received an email that was done several years ago by the attorney for the Planning and Zoning Commission, Jesse LeBlanc, who's now Judge LeBlanc, concerning that, and I think it was clearly delineated that family partitions are variances. And so the rules regarding variances apply to family partitions. And I read that, and after reading that memo, I thought, well, we did get it right with the issue, because the hardship was created by the landowner. And so
Right.
the variance, you can't do that to get the variance. But that's,
Right.
so I don't know that I think that's already been at least addressed by the parish, albeit many years ago, but that still would be
Okay, well, I agree,
applicable.
I agree with that. However, you've taken this effort or taken this on and talked to somebody and you think it's done. But I think for someone coming into this who's never looked at this before, it could be clarified. And then we won't have to go through this another time.
I don't
Clarity is
feel-
always a good issue.
Well, I don't feel like what Judge LeBlanc suggested in that opinion got incorporated into the ordinance. I think that's kind of what
It
we're,
didn't, yeah.
right, and I think that's what we're still trying to work out, and,
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I have copies here.
well,
We
no, we
have
actually have a
copies.
copy.
No, copies of what I submitted.
We have copies.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of that.
I have another question, maybe it's a question of legal. Is there a way the ordinance could be worded so that this commission would actually be able to decide yes or no, this is a hardship? Can we, like, question people and use our judgment to say whether or not it's a hardship? As it stands right now, if A, B, and C take place, it's automatically a hardship. But a hardship to me means you're suffering for some reason, and that maybe they should be required to explain to us where the suffering comes from and how much suffering it is, and let us use our discretion to decide whether it is really a true hardship or it's someone looking for a loophole.
I think the problem with that, not to, I'll let legal answer, I see two problems with that. First off, I think hardship is a legal term of art in terms of it being incorporated into the law. So whereas we may think of it as, well, are you suffering? What the definition is in the statute is really what the hardship is, not what we would normally think of it. And I think the second problem with that is if it leaves to a discretionary call, then it could be, we could be subject to say, well, you abused your discretion, or you were doing it for some other reason other than what the law states. And I think that could open up a can of worms against us. And that, I mean, I would like to have something say, this is a hardship, A, B, C, and D. If you meet these criteria, then you're in a hardship situation, rather than leaving it up to, because that could change with the will of as the board moves around, and there'd be consistency issues, in my opinion.
Right, and as it stands, we do have a definition, and I understand that it might not be satisfactory to you all, but the applicant explains their hardship in their application, and then staff oftentimes determines for you all, yes, we believe this is a hardship, we recommend approval, or we don't believe this is a hardship, we recommend denial. I'm sure there's some way where we could maybe better define or work on that if it's something you'd like to look into, or maybe have staff explain why they think it's a hardship or explain why they don't think it's a hardship. I mean, there are lots of options.
And then we could use that rationale as a basis for denying the family partition?
As discretion?
In other words,
If there is no, I mean,
if the staff are in our discussion, we decide, well, you know, this isn't a true hardship, this is just a convenience for this petitioner, then we could deny the
if a hardship is a prerequisite to the approval, then you could, but, Lance, are you?
Which should always be a prerequisite, I think. We're
It is a
applying for
hardship,
it.
family partition.
Yeah, it's always going to be a prerequisite, I think.
yeah. So family partition is, by its very nature, a hardship variance, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So that we might move on, do I have any, I would like some sense of whether we're going to table this for further discussion, or whether, what is your pleasure?
I'd like to move to table this till at least next month's meeting.
I have a motion to table it. Is there a second
I
to
think
that
there's too
motion?
much.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Those opposed? Okay. All right. Item 11D, ordinance DR 14-06, revision to the drainage ordinance in the Unified Land Development Code pertaining to design and construction criteria.
Yes, this is what I brought before last month, we're clarifying the code and just taking out an inconsistency in that.
Is there anyone who signed up to speak about this item on the agenda? Okay. Do we have any discussion here about this?
No? I'll move for approval.
I have a
I'll second.
motion, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Item 12, staff report. There is no staff report. Engineering staff report.
I'd just like to talk about the private development that's coming to the parish. And just quickly, we have 24 projects that are either in preliminary design through some are in their bond period, and it composes 1,946 lots. And for commercial sites, there are 16 projects that are under design or under review, and 63 that are in various stages of construction at this time.
Thank you. All right, is there anything else before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Okay, in that case, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll
Do I have a
second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a 5-minute recess.